Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Pathways to Christ, and we are in week 4. And our focus today is going to be on our prayer lives. So, our prayer lives go through cycles, they go through struggles, and they go through moments of doubt, different things. Our prayer lives actually mirror what is going on in our lives. So, today we're going to explore that a little bit. And we're going to see what those obstacles are. And we're also going to explore the different cycles in our prayer lives. So we'll start today with, I'm going to do a longer meditation today, and you'll see the significance of it after we're done with the meditation as we start discussing the different cycles of our prayer lives. So the meditation will mirror what we're going to talk about and focus on today. And at the end of the program today, I would just encourage you to reflect on your meditation experience and see where your areas are for growth, or maybe something that God draws your attention to while you're doing the meditation. So we'll start. And I just want you to find a nice, comfortable, relaxed position in your chair. Close your eyes and just get comfy. Wiggle around if you need to, and just get comfortable in your prayer space. So you find that there's a road or a pathway in front of you, and you're by yourself, and you might see things on that pathway. You might see trees. You might see a dirt path or a gravel path or even a mountain path. And you're just going to start walking on the path. And as you're walking, I want you to notice what you hear, what the environment is like, different smells that are in the air, maybe the wind on your face. And I want you to take note of how you feel. Do you feel carefree? Do you feel weighed down? Do you feel tired? Do you feel like skipping on the path? Do you feel like running on the path? And just take a stroll. And as you continue walking on the path, there's a fork in the road, and you're not sure which path to take. So you decide to go left or you decide to go right. The choice is yours. And as you're walking on that path, you think you spot Jesus. And you can envision Jesus however you envision Jesus. It's personal to you. And you see Jesus beckon to you and hold out his hand to you. And you take it or you don't take it. The choice is yours. But Jesus starts to walk with you on the path. And at first it's very carefree. The path is just clear ahead and it's smooth sailing. And then as you notice, you see the changing of the seasons. So as you're walking on the path, all of a sudden it begins to snow. And it's really cold. And the wind is blowing. And Jesus is still walking with you, providing warmth and shelter. And then you begin to see some birds, and the weather starts to warm up a little bit. And there's little sprouts in the ground. And you wonder, when are those flowers going to grow? And it's still a little windy. But you walk, and Jesus is still with you. And then it begins to rain. And you feel the drops of rain on your face, on your head. And you might feel cleansed, or you might feel annoyed that it's raining. And Jesus is still walking with you. And then all of a sudden it gets really hot, and the sky is so blue, bluer than you've ever seen, and the sun is brighter than you've ever seen. And the landscape is just lush. The trees are green. You can imagine the roots of the trees under the ground. And it just feels warm and safe. And you feel healthy and loved and well. And Jesus is with you. And then you continue to walk further, and the leaves start turning colors. And they start falling gently from the trees. And you feel as if you could use a little campfire. Maybe the air is a little brisk. But it's so beautiful and vibrant with the colors and the beauty. And Jesus is still with you. And you realize that you went through a cycle of a year. You went through every single cycle. The cold of winter, to the budding sprouts of spring, to the warm, comfortable, beautiful air, to the falling of the leaves, and Jesus has been with you. And then you see a stream, and you sit down next to Jesus for a minute. And Jesus says something to you. What does he say to you? And then suddenly Jesus hands you an empty bucket. And he asks you to get some water out of the stream because it's fresh, and maybe you could drink some of that water. And you bring the bucket down to the water, and you grab a nice full bucket of water. And as you lug it, you're lugging that bucket, and my word, is that bucket heavy. It feels so heavy, and it's such a struggle to bring that bucket back up to where Jesus is sitting. And Jesus is still there to meet you with the heavy bucket. And then what do you decide to do with the bucket? Do you place it down next to him? Is Jesus offering to carry the load of the bucket for you? What do you do with the bucket? And then Jesus stands up, and he offers you his hand, and he says, "Follow me." And so you follow, or you decide not to follow. It's up to you. And suddenly you see Jesus at work. What is Jesus doing? Is he healing? Is he teaching? Is he preaching? Or is he praying? How is the countenance on his face? How does his face look to you? What do you do? Do you stand and watch in awe? Again, the choice is yours. Or do you, like Jesus took the bucket, possibly, do you take some of that, do you take choice of maybe lightening Jesus's load, maybe helping with whatever he's helping with? And is Jesus asking you to help with something specific? And then suddenly Jesus points to your heart, and you know that Jesus is there. You feel the love, the warmth, the acceptance, the joy of having Jesus there. And then you begin your own walk. You walk down the path once more, knowing that Jesus is in your heart, knowing that his Spirit is with you. And you come along things on the path, and you either walk by or you notice something that's on the path. What is on your path? Is God asking something specific of you? And then you find yourself doing that specific thing or not doing that specific thing. And then you see Jesus at the end of the path again. And you sit down with Jesus. And with loving acceptance, he looks in your eyes. And you know that you are loved. And just take a minute to sit with Jesus. And I'll give you a couple minutes, and when you're ready, I would welcome you back. So I have to tell you, this is a meditation that I made up on the fly. I did not learn this in spiritual direction school, but I felt, hey, this might be effective to the message today about prayer. So again, our prayer lives go through cycles. So just like the seasons, our lives and our prayer lives go through these cycles. So sometimes we're in the winters of our life where we're going through many struggles. Everything seems cold. Everything seems dry. We might have a hard time figuring out how to pray, or we might not be able to pray. We might feel blocked on something. And we all go through these periods of our lives where we're feeling like we're in darkness. And sometimes we feel like there isn't any light. And yet we try to keep going, and we try to pray, and we try to do our best to get through. But I think it's great to remember that Jesus is always there with us, accepting us, loving us. Even in those darkest of times, Jesus is always there. And then other times in our life, there's that time to plant the seeds in spring. So in our prayer lives, there might be seeds in our life that are being planted that we may be aware of or not aware of. And of course, those seeds take they need the sunlight, they need the water, they need caring and tending, weeding, all of that. And our prayer lives are no different. So our prayer lives, we still, we're planting new seeds through this program. We're finding new ways to pray and contemplate and to seek God. So it's not just about finding the new ways, it's about finding a way that's good for you, but it's also about nurturing that prayer life through the springtime cycle. So nurturing it, doing something different, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't work, but also taking the time to explore it. Because of course, when we garden, we have to take time to tend. These things don't happen real fast, and the seasons don't change real fast. So it's a cycle of prayer. And then, of course, we come to times in our lives of summer, of joy, of warmth, of sunlight, where everything is great. And sometimes this can be good because we find prayer can be easier. We find that we are in gratitude. Prayer is easy because times are good. But oftentimes people take the opposite choice. They take the choice of, well, everything's good. I don't need to pray today. But I think um, we still need to meet the challenge and try to pray and still meet that challenge and to find that personal relationship with God and to keep it through all the seasons. So then, of course, there's times like fall of major change in our lives. And that can bring struggle in our prayer lives too. I, for one, embrace change. I absolutely love change. I like to see what the next adventure is. But not many people are like that. Many people don't like change. We're creatures of habit. So it's hard when we're going through so many changes sometimes to pray. Sometimes we might feel stuck. We might not know what to pray for. We might feel bad within ourselves for either A, asking God for help, or B, we might not know what to ask God for help with. Or we might decide that everything's hopeless and, why pray? So again, it's these struggles and cycles through our lives that we have to meet those challenges and know that Jesus is on that path through every season of our life and every stage of our life. So there are many stages of prayer life as well. So there's that first stage that we meditated about where we have a bucket that's full of water and it's so heavy. And that is symbolic of how sometimes prayer can be in our lives. So when we're beginner Christians, a lot of people say, well, I don't know how to pray, or how do I pray? So I always say, think of God as your friend and just talk. Like you would talk to a friend. It's a way to start and open those doors, to just start talking to God. God knows us. He knows, what we're going to do before we do it. He knows our hearts. He knows our intentions. We can't hide from God. So I always say, to maybe make that bucket a little lighter, just start somewhere. Just start talking to God. Start talking to Jesus, even if it's in small ways, in small spurts. But oftentimes that bucket feels so heavy to carry. Like prayer is a struggle for us at times. And then as we grow and we begin to nurture our prayer lives, we nurture and find new ways, prayer gets a little easier for us, and we realize that we can talk to God and we don't have, we kind of grow in our spirit. And it's so important to keep growing in our spirits. And then we grow with God and we grow in our personal lives and our prayer lives grow. So it all kind of intermingles together. And oftentimes I think we need to know that Jesus will carry that bucket for us. Sometimes, I'm an independent woman, so I hate asking for help. So for me to ask someone for help, it's a big deal, right? And I know many of you probably feel that way. So maybe having Jesus take that bucket is hard. Sometimes it's hard to give up that sense of independence. Sometimes it feels like shame. Like I feel so guilty for asking someone for help, or I feel so guilty asking God for this when so many other people are suffering or need something. And yet Jesus is with us, ready to take that bucket from us. God will make our loads easier. We have to know that God loves us and wants to tend to us and cares for us in a very visceral, deep, personal way. So then, as we grow and grow and grow, there's that opportunity for discipleship. And I like to call that a living prayer. So when Teresa of Avila had talked about being a living prayer, and I absolutely loved what she said. It was as if she didn't have to form words anymore. She didn't have to think anymore or be burdened by the prayers. She would just live the life of Jesus in discipleship. And that was her prayer. And that is a beautiful thing to think about. So if on your meditation you saw Jesus doing something and Jesus might have asked for your help in a specific area, that is your living prayer. Discipleship, helping your neighbor, walking in the pathways of Christ is all a living prayer. And that doesn't mean that we shouldn't still take time for prayer or contemplation, because we need to do those things. And yet, there is a beauty in looking at discipleship as a living, breathing prayer. You're answering someone else's prayer. You're helping Jesus with the load. You're bringing the message of Christ, or you're bringing the message of love from Christ that Christ has given you. So I would just encourage you to think about that. So think about all of the cycles of prayer in your life. Think about your life. Think about what stage of prayer you're at. And sometimes we don't always go linear. Sometimes, we're in a heavy spot and we move to a living prayer, and then we move to a heavy spot. So nothing is, set in stone with this, but it's just a way to contemplate your prayer life, contemplate discipleship, and also know that Jesus is with you, willing to carry that bucket, willing to carry you through the seasons of your entire life, and that Jesus' love is always there in your heart, and the Spirit is always walking with you, encouraging you, and helping you to have the tools along the way. So I would just ask in the week ahead that you really contemplate on the meditation and on what Jesus is saying to you today and in this month, in this time of Lent. So I just want to thank you for joining me today and just wish God's blessings upon you. And may you have a really good week. And I will see you next week at 1 o'clock. God's blessings. Bye.